Protesters in Lebanon are standing their ground despite the government approving sweeping economic reforms. But authorities appear to be tightening security, with police and military dispersing groups of demonstrators. The Prime Minister Saad Hariri announced the economic measures to defuse the biggest demonstrations in years against the nation's leaders. But activists say they won't go home until the entire cabinet steps down. Aljazeera's Zeina joins us live now from the Lebanese capital. Zeina, so it seems the country is paralysed for yet another day. Protesters remain on the streets, roads are blocked. Tell us what's been happening on the ground, Zeina.
Well, what protesters want to do is to continue to pile pressure on the government to resign. As you can see behind me, some streets, they've managed to block the roads on major highways. But the Lebanese army and the security forces, they're out in force, and they have orders. They have orders to open the roads. It has been decided by the Prime Minister Saad Hariri in a phone call late yesterday with the army chief that they're going to allow the people to continue to protest and that the army will continue to protect the protesters. But it seems they will only allow them to stay in certain squares. They will take action, they will take measures when protesters try to disrupt public life. There is no general strike today. Clearly, streets are more busy. It is quite difficult, really, for the protesters to keep up this momentum because people need to return to work. Banks have been closed since Friday, so people are short of cash. ATM machines, you can no longer withdraw money from ATM machines. Some gas stations in certain areas across the country are lacking fuel because it's very difficult to move from one area to another. So the army now saying that they will ensure freedom of movement for the people. But as you can see, in some areas, protesters are still defiant, still closing roads. But people really praised the army late yesterday because they prevented supporters of two parties, Amal Movement and Hezbollah, from approaching this area. We are in the main protest site in downtown Beirut. So the army prevented them from reaching the site. They were waving and carrying party flags, really, in a very provocative move. So the army prevented that from happening. And this is why it's just so dangerous, because this is still a deeply divided country. Yes, we talked about millions of people in the streets. This is a country's population is 5 million people. But 1-2 million on the streets really means that there are others who still support their parties, traditional political parties. And if they take to the streets to face these demonstrators, then the risk of confrontation is real. So the army now taking control.
Zeina, and yesterday we saw the Prime Minister Saad Hariri address the nation. But in terms of the politics, I mean, what happens next? What are the various options, the scenarios going forward?
Well, the governing alliance making it very, very clear we're not leaving power. We're not handing over power to a transitional council as protesters want. Civil society, this is a spontaneous protest movement. Civil society activists are telling us we're under no illusion. We're up against people who have been in power for decades, people who control the security forces, people who have money. But for us, this is a new beginning. It is a start. A revolution has already happened. People have come together. The sectarian divide has been overcome. Muslims, Christians standing next to each other. So really, they feel that they have accomplished something. They haven't accomplished their stated goals, but they feel that this is a new beginning that they can build upon.
All right, so Zeina there in the Lebanese capital, Beirut. Zeina, thank you for that.